What's going on, guys? Stevie here with Lucky Crit, finally bringing you my trailer analysis for the brand new Fire Emblem Three Houses trailer, released as a part of yesterday's Nintendo Direct. I spent the last couple of hours breaking down the trailer, analyzing everything as thoroughly as I can, so let's get started. Right off the bat, I find it pretty interesting that they decided to have this trailer released right before Valentine's Day, considering this game seems to take some symbolism and pay homage to the romance of the Three Kingdoms. The trailer begins with a closer look on the new Dragon Girl, who we later learn is named Sothis. This is probably the Manakete Lolly character of Fire Emblem Three Houses. You know, the Three Houses version of young Tiki. Judging by what we know from later on in the trailer, it's likely the person she's talking to is actually Beleth. If Beleth is having visions of Sothis, it's likely that Beleth will eventually end up finding her. Then we get treated to a brand new Fire Emblem Three Houses logo. It's not much to point out, but it's interesting to see just how much it's changed since the original trailer 8 months ago. I looked into whether or not this font is reminiscent of Romance of the Three Kingdoms fonts, or if there's a connection here, but I wasn't really able to find anything concrete. The Japanese version of the new logo is also interesting, with the moon symbol having a crescent-like shape to echo the fact that it's a moon, since the Japanese title of Three Houses is Fire Emblem Wind, Flower, Snow, Moon, harkening back once again to the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. We now see the world map again, and there are a few changes here and there to report. Bridget in the lower left is now Brigid, Fodra is now Fodler, Albine in the upper left is now Albinia, Threen to the north now looks to be Srang, Palmyra to the east is now Almyra, in the lower right Morpheus is now Morpheo, Fergus, originally spelled F-E-R-G-U-S, is now spelled Fargus, F-A-E-R-G-H-U-S. Adrastia has now been changed to the Adrestrian Empire and Adrestia. What we originally thought might have been Bargmak looks to actually have been Gargmak, and is now Garrigmak Monastery. There's a region on the western part of Fargus that had its geography altered slightly, as well as a continuation of the lake and river in Leicester, and a reduction in a bigger river south of that. It's going to be interesting to find out later on if there's specific reasons for these changes, especially once we know what actually happens in the game and maybe specifically what some of these areas are for, so I'm looking forward to that. And we can also see various new names for each of the sub-areas, and also some new sub-areas in general, but many are a bit challenging to make out. Aside from that though, nothing else looks to have changed geographically. We then learn that the Adrestrian Empire has held its land and power within its dynasty for 1,000 years. Fargus is also ruled by the royal family and its knights, being referred to as the Holy Kingdom of Fargus. We then learn that Leicester is actually the Leicester Alliance, a league of nobles that does not obey any king or emperor and rules themselves.
Once consumed by a tempest of war and turmoil, Fodlan and these three mighty powers now exist in relative harmony.
Not for long, I'd say. We're now introduced to a character creation screen for Beleth, and we can see what the female version of Beleth will look like. This confirms Beleth is the main character of the game, and also somewhat of a playable MyUnit avatar character. However, the big thing to notice here is that there's no further customization details present in this screen, so we may not be able to change various details of Beleth, like hair color, eye color, or size or stature, like we could for Robin and Corrin. It's possible that this is still being worked on, or it's just not shown here on this particular screen, but there are some pre-rendered looking cutscenes that happen later, so it may be a possibility that further customization will not be present in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Judging by everything else in the trailer, it also seems that Beleth may in fact be a mute protagonist, considering he still has yet to speak even a single line. So I wonder if they took the criticisms of both Robin and Corrin, and then decided to make Beleth a mute bystander to appease the fans. Interesting. Your father, Geralt, is a leader of a mercenary group that you're a part of. Beleth is shown here with Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude, which I find interesting, so I wonder if even though the voiceover is saying this is where you start out in the game, this cutscene is probably from a bit later, where Beleth is already a teacher, because I don't see why these three nobles of each house already know Beleth before him becoming a teacher at the monastery. I'd say, judging by past Fire Emblem games, Geralt is a dead man. Maybe this is even the scene leading to his death. Sorry for any potential spoilers, but Fire Emblem does not have a good track record with parental figures surviving. Then we hear that an unexpected incident will reveal an unknown power within. Perhaps this is talking about Beleth. Main character privilege, am I right? Here's what I meant about Sothis earlier, and how Beleth will come to teach the students at the Garrigmak Monastery.
Around that same time, you alone begin to see a mysterious girl named Sothis, who appears within your mind. After an unexpected incident reveals an unknown power hidden within, you'll travel to Garrigmak Monastery, where you'll receive an offer to teach at the Officers' Academy.
The Garrigmak Monastery is also the home base of the Church of Seiros, and this may come into play later with the church potentially proving to be evil. We don't know this for sure, but it seems to be led by a divine Seiros that looks very similar to Tiki, and probably also has some divine dragon heritage. So far, I don't know that I trust her. I want to point out here that the trailer seems to feature both pre-rendered CG cutscenes and also typical animation-based cutscenes like your favorite anime show. I'm wondering if they did this to conserve on budget, since CG cutscenes are very expensive and costly to make, and thus usually lend to there not being many, so maybe this animated style will take place as more of the standard cutscenes within the game. We can then see various other teachers or professors. This woman here in particular looks to be a woman who was casting magic in the first trailer. Next we're shown what the three houses' students are called within the monastery. The Adrestrian house members are called the Black Eagles, the Fargusian students are the Blue Lions, and the Lysterian students are the Golden Deers. Wait, hold on a second. Huge monastery in the middle of nowhere, students from all over being sorted into different houses and competing. Yeah, this does indeed look like Harry Potter now. -5 points from Gryffindor.
For that obvious comment.
We also received confirmation that Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude are indeed the house leaders and represent each of their nations as the head of their students. If it wasn't obvious before, Edelgard is also now confirmed to be somewhat of noble birth, being called the future emperor of the Adrestrian dynasty. There are various characters shown in the background here, including Hilda from the first trailer that looks to be in the Golden Deer house with Claude, and also some others of which can be seen later in the trailer in their 3D model versions, so it's likely that the students shown behind each house's callout are students belonging to that house. It seems like, depending upon which house you, as Beleth, choose to teach, that will likely end up giving you a different selection of characters to use and play with in the game. It's not clear if you'll end up getting the other house's students later in the game or not, but if they are going strongly with the different paths concept here, I think it's going to be really cool to have a different roster each time you play, and that will lend to a lot of cool replayability. With that said, I'll probably either start off teaching Edelgard and the Adrestrian students if I want to be kind of generic, or perhaps when we get more details, I'll end up liking the roster of some of the other houses better. We'll see, but I definitely like where this is going. The description of the official trailer uploaded to YouTube by Nintendo also states further confirmation of this. 3 noble houses that are a part of the Officers Academy, an elite training facility that trains students in the ways of weapons, magic, and special skills. As a professor, the player must choose one of these houses to lead its students in grid-based battles with life or death stakes. Each house is comprised of many different students to meet and train, each with her or his own personality and skills. These students can interact with each other at the academy, strengthening their bonds and supporting each other on the battlefield. Claude is then also confirmed to be a noble as well, even though the Leicester Alliance doesn't seem to have any sort of dynasty that we know of. We then see some students in front of Beleth here, including one named Annette. The other one looks to be Mercedes from the first trailer. It's not originally clear which house they're from, since they're just wearing the generic student outfits, but we're then shown Beleth speaking with Sylvain, with other students confirmed to be in the Blue Lion house in the background. This is also the same room with Annette and Mercedes, so it seems that Beleth is visiting the Blue Lion house, which also includes Ash, who we'll see in the dining hall later. Some of the dialogue here does seem to indicate that the monastery will be fully explorable by the player as Beleth, as we saw and speculated from the original trailer, including a dining hall that you can visit and see students eating at. Next, we've got even more new characters in Leonie and Raphael here, and considering that they're not with any of the other characters, it's likely that they're from the Golden Deer house. It also appears that there will be full voice acting when speaking to students around the castle. Awesome, but the lip flaps aren't quite matching up so great, so let's hope that this gets ironed out by release. Hopefully they'll also include dual audio this time for fans that enjoy the original Japanese voice acting more. A lot of people shared disappointment in some of the character designs showcased in this trailer, but for me personally, I think what's making it all worse is the fact that each student has their typical student outfit clothes. We can see from here that each character does have their own unique flair to their standard issue school outfit, but I'm just not sure that fans are going to love the limited creativity with the designs that the game artist will have to accept when creating these characters. It's probably going to lead to an overall cast that seemed to blur together a lot more. There's less space here for individuality, but I am happy to see that there is variation with the different school outfits, at the very least. In this shot, it looks like Beleth chose to teach the Adrestrian Black Eagles, so it seems that all of these characters are confirmed to be a part of this house. This includes Petra, unknown, as this guy still hasn't had a name reveal, Linhardt, Edelgard, Bernadetta, Dorothea, Casper, and Ferdinand. Yes, I said Linhardt. We'll get there. We can also see the time of day appear very briefly here in the top left corner, so it seems like there might also be a day and night system, and maybe this has to do with classes and when you can actually interact with the students, so it really does seem like they are going pretty Persona with this. Edelgard is mentioning locating the bandits, which could be an early game issue that Beleth and students have to resolve. I also want to point out here that there's a chat log button as well as an auto advance, so it's nice to see these features making a comeback. We then see what is likely to be the purported bandits led by Costas. I like that even the tiny map models look very detailed. We can see here that they revamped the main map screen character UI a bit, with each character getting a little cut in of their face and artwork floating above the units' heads, as well as an icon indicating their weapon type. Later on, we do see that it appears that Beleth can choose the different classes for each student that he wants them to become, allowing for a lot of freedom, But just to make a note of everything here, Beleth is here wielding his sword, Caspar is wielding an axe, even though we see him later with iron gauntlets, Ferdinand has a lance, Bernadetta has a bow, Linhardt has a white tome, which we later find out is called faith magic, probably light magic. Dorothea also has a tome, this one being black and later called reason magic, probably referring to either dark magic or anima magic like fire, wind, and thunder. Edelgard has her axe, and the still unknown guy has a white tome inscribed with a symbol. This tome also falls under reason magic, perhaps this one is for anima, or vice versa with the black tomes. We'll see more on this later. There's also a little indicator here in the bottom left that could be formations. Judging by this entire trailer, it's not clear if formations from the original trailer have been completely removed or not. Some fans were speculating that, but I also want to point out that the groups of soldiers with each character are not present on this particular screen because it takes another close-up or zoom in as shown in the original trailer for them to appear on the map. So the soldiers with their character are definitely still here, and these little triangles, whether they're rank carrots or have to do with the standard formation of each character, that could certainly be the case. It looks like Dorothea in the bottom left has no carrots next to her, so that's kind of interesting. And they're also standing on flatland terrain, which seems to be like plains, with no bonuses. We can see in Bernadetta's flyout menu here that since the original trailer, attack has been shorthanded to ATK, magic has been removed or is unavailable on Bernadetta, combat arts have been renamed to just arts, there's a new gambit option where the formation option was previously, which could indicate that the gambit system may have replaced, or at the very least superseded formations, which we'll get back to later, and equip has been removed from the flyout as well in favor of the classic trade command. Bernadetta is a level 2 noble with an iron bow and mini bow. We can also see that her iron bow is indeed effective against flyers, as it should be, but her mini bow is also not effective against flyers, so that's interesting. AS, meaning attack speed and resilience for res, look to still go by this terminology and classification after appearing like this in the first trailer. We can see that Bernadetta has what looks to be either a new version of the Gamble skill, Tempest skill, or a brand new skill, and has weapon ranks of Lance level 1 and Bow level 1 in her noble class. The potential formation carrots also appear to the left here against the enemy thief. We can see that combat arts can be switched between with ZL and ZR, and at first it looks like she has no combat arts, but then after pressing one of those buttons, she can then use curved shot, so perhaps characters will have different slots for combat arts. The weapon also doesn't change here when she does get curved shot, so if they were locked to each weapon, then you'd assume that her weapon would have to switch to utilize the other combat arts, unless it's a new feature where whatever weapons you have, even though they aren't the one equipped, will still allow you to use their combat art. Curved Shot is a throwback to the combat arts of Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, which introduced them to the series. We can see that activating a combat art has a cool little flash animation just like it did there. We can also see her archer soldiers behind her in the backline here, so that debunks anybody that thought that the soldiers were gone for good. And then we can see Petra performing a lucky crit. They look pretty similar to how they looked in the original trailer. We then see the EXP screen for the first time, revealing that there's a mechanic called Professor Level. It seems that Professor Levels could simply just be a rename of normal weapon levels. We can also see that students can master various classes, with the 40 remaining next to this class for Petra. From this battle where she critted, she gains EXP towards the Professor level, and also Unit Battalion EXP. It seems that the soldiers with each character are called Unit Battalions. Her current soldiers are Empire Infantry. So I'm wondering if, depending upon your class, the game will let you unlock different soldiers from other classes, and then have the freedom to equip them and mix and match the different soldiers on any class type. This would be very akin to the Langrisser series, and would play on the weapon triangle in an interesting way. For example, if you're an axe-wielding unit and have disadvantage against swords, imagine you could then have lance-wielding soldiers fighting with your axe-wielding character. This would mean that at least as far as the soldiers go, you'd have a bit more of an effective matchup, but still retain the disadvantage with the fighting the main character does. None of this has been confirmed yet, but of course would be interesting and would be certainly taking a page from Langrisser's playbook. We then see what appears to be a sparring match or duel between Ferdinand and Sylvain, both wielding training lances. We can see that there's a withdraw B button at the bottom here, which may confirm that this is in fact the arena feature within Fire Emblem 3 houses, sparring between students of different houses. Ferdinand here is from the Black Eagle house, as we know from earlier, and Sylvain is from the Blue Lions, so the color here must just refer to the first and second fighter, and not have to do with the houses that they're from. Ferdinand can wield swords, lances, and axes, and Sylvain can wield lances and axes. The reward also includes an intermediate seal, so I wonder if these will work like second seals in Fire Emblem Awakening, where they allow you to change your initial class to various other classes. Intermediate may also imply that they've separated the classes that you can pick from between promoted and unpromoted, and perhaps this is the lower or mid-tier seal needed to switch to those unpromoted classes. Next, we can actually see Beleth teaching in action. There's what looks to be 3 teaching energy at the top, indicating that the player has that much to spend at this time for teaching the students. We can see tutoring to the right, which is described below as selecting someone to train with them and improve their skills. And there's also auto-tutor for 3 teaching energy. Beleth can also set a group task. Perhaps this will order several students to accomplish some goal or train a particular stat or weapon rank, and also set goals to, presumably, establish goals for the students to hit with their training. There's also a start class button, so perhaps this will start the tasks and begin the students' actions to learn and train. It's probably a timed system. All of this kind of seems like other games where you can send units out to explore or train, and come back later to claim their rewards and progress. So maybe you can start class and then resume exploring the castle if you've got the students off learning and doing stuff. We now get to see the training menu here with Dorothea. We're shown what looks to be all of her weapon ranks, with an E+ ranking in swords, and a D in what looks to be called the Reason skill, featuring black tomes and tomes with a symbol inscribed upon them. Like I said earlier, this is probably dark and anima magic. Base +4 may imply that by training and learning, we can increase the base damage or might of each weapon or skill in this case, and there's also a strengths indicator granting her +2. I wonder if this has to do with her current class or equipment, or maybe natural character strengths. In this case, it looks like Dorothea should avoid standard tomes, which we later see is called Faith, though there's also 3 stars to the right of this skill, which is not clear exactly where this is coming from. It also appears that Beleth set a growth goal for Dorothea of Sword and Reason focus. Dorothea also has a little status indicator in the top right, showing her current mood or ability to train more, also letting the player know that she can be trained one more time at the current moment. Upon selecting, we can see that she gains more experience in Reason, subtracting from her current status meter, and increasing what looks to be support points between her and Beleth. She also earns 1.5 times experience. We then see Beleth in the Set Goals menu selecting goals for Linhardt. Yes, Linhardt. This character, name-wise, is an amalgamation of Lyn and Reinhardt, and appearance-wise, doesn't look too far off of that either. I'm sure some fans are going to have a blast with this character. This has to be a conscious decision on the part of Intelligent Systems. The player can press L and R to switch between students and assign them solo study skills, focuses, and is also shown the character's current skill levels. There's also a fist weapon icon here, revealed in the middle to be called the fighting skill, and as we'll see later, fist weapons or gauntlets will in fact be a part of the combat in this game. There's also a flag skill, which turns out to be the authority skill. The horse icon called riding definitely seems like it would go towards the cavalier class line, and the Pegasus wing icon called flying is likely to allow students to become Pegasus Knights. All of the students so far have the starting class of Noble, so it seems that the roster is going to be mostly made up of nobles from the various countries. It would definitely be interesting though to find and recruit people from outside the school and outside nobility though, so we'll see. We then see, after selecting Faith as his focus, Linhardt healing Beleth on the battlefield. So I think it's safe to say that magic in this game is classified as Reason and Faith magic, with the typical dark or animal magic being classified as Reason magic, and white magic or light magic in other games being classified as Faith magic. It probably refers to having faith in the holy religion of Seiros. Well, I guess you don't have any reason if you focus on the faith of Seiros. Did they just attack my religion, bro? We then see Casper attacking with iron gauntlets, revealing the fighting skill weapon type and an example weapon in the game. He's fighting Western Church soldiers, so maybe this is after the Church turns out to be evil, or there's some sort of conflict with them. I like the little detail here of Casper blocking and anticipating the enemy's attack. It really makes it more realistic when a physical unit is fighting a mage, instead of just the standard standing still character animations of Fire Emblem's past. You know, where they just kind of stand there and take the hit. Oh. We're now shown Edelgard's class-changing options, including series staples Mercenary, Thief, Knight, Cavalier, Brigand, Archer, Mage, and Priest. It seems that in order to change classes, the student must take a hypothetical exam, and depending upon your weapon rank within each of the weapon types, your character may or may not be able to pass this hypothetical exam, allowing or disallowing the unit from changing to that class. It also requires an intermediate seal, as we speculated earlier, and with a C in Axes, Edelgard has a 100% pass rate to become a Brigand. Turns out Bata actually had his PhD in Brigandry. I like that you can also rotate the character model on the screen too. After taking the test, Edelgard passes, so the class change text in this game is gone, instead in favor of a passed message. We then see a shot of the dining hall, where a student named Ash is sitting and eating. Ash is from the Blue Lion House. We saw him earlier training in the courtyard in the anime-esque sequence, and also in the background of the Blue Lion area. It seems, based upon his reaction, that Beleth or the player may be able to cook specific meals for characters, so maybe this might be like the mess hall feature in Fire Emblem Fates, where you can have characters cook specific meals using resources for temporary stat boosts in battle. We're then shown a Gambit boost attack featuring Beleth, Mystery Man, Ferdinand, and Edelgard, all attacking or seemingly critting at once. So Gambit boosts could be inter-character boosts, or effects gained upon increasing certain characters' support levels. But of course we aren't sure just yet. The Gambit boost effect allows Edelgard to do a charge attack in battle against an enemy Black Beast. I want to point out here that this looks very similar to the charge attack done by Dimitri with the formation reveal in the first trailer, so perhaps formation determines certain gambits you can use, or maybe formations have gone by the wayside and what is left is now the Gambit system. I'm glad that monsters, in some way, shape, or form, will also be back. The flyout menu in battle calls this attack a coordinated gambit, so perhaps there are different types of character gambits. Edelgard has an assault troop, which is likely the name of her mounted soldiers, who do appear to be wielding lances while she has her axe, so it looks like my speculation earlier about being able to customize unit battalion types to have different weapon triangle advantages than the squad leader is indeed possible. The Black Beast unit type is a fighting type called Creststone of Gautier, which, if you recall, Sylvain said earlier in the trailer was his last name, so it's likely that this is a battle against a monster in one of the other house's areas. The Black Beast can't counterattack in this scenario, so perhaps this coordinated gambit is either a ranged attack or just a free attack upon the enemy when you proc it. We then see an inverted image of a bandit whose axe is stuck into Beleth, which may have mortally wounded him. The footage here is really quick but seems to reverse everything that just happened with the bandit's attack, then resulting in Beleth having the foresight to counter the bandit before he attacks. Whether this is literally Beleth having the ability to see the future, or an indication that Amilla's turnwheel-like feature that first appeared in Fire Emblem Echoes will be returning, remains to be seen, but it's certainly possible. We then see that while dispatching the bandits, Dimitri and Claude end up aiding Beleth and Edelgard. Next we see Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude leading their forces into battle, which may indicate that at some point they'll need to fight each other if the three nations go to war within the game's story. There's also a symbol on Sothis' outfit that matches the symbol of the rather evil-looking guy who was brandishing the sword/whip chain thing from that first trailer, so that's something to think about. I would say there's a pretty good chance this guy's a bad guy. Yeah, just gonna go with my gut on that one. There's a lot of interesting imagery here, like a witch doctor mask wearing mage casting a fireball, a feminine-looking character jumping with what looks to be the serpentine sword as displayed in the first trailer's mural image, then some sort of seal or something with darkness or ooze seeping out of it, perhaps like a broken seal. Then we're greeted by the Divine Seros, the Tiki lookalike and the leader of the Church of Seros. Her headpiece turns out to be the exact same as Sothis', not that that's a surprise or anything. They also both have green hair and green eyes, so once again this is quite like young Tiki and adult Tiki, or Nagi and Naga. Showing her right after showing that broken seal, or whatever that was, does seem to imply that she might be evil. We can also then see a Black Beast in more detail. I really hope they don't pull a Fates, where these are like the Faceless and you'll just be fighting them everywhere as one of the very few generic enemy types. Let's get a lot of different monsters this time, please. We then see Beleth surrounded by darkness, and now wielding the interesting and quite possibly legendary weapon / chain sword thing that was showcased in the first trailer. And of course, finally, the new statement that the game will in fact be releasing on July 26th. So my speculation that the game was quietly delayed was pretty much on the money. Thankfully, it hasn't been delayed by much, but it really did seem like they'd need a bit more time for this title. There's also a message here about the special edition version of the game, called Fire Emblem Three Houses Seasons of Warfare Edition, and will include the art book, sound selection CD, steelbook, and calendar, which is also available on July 26th. It appears that the special editions from other regions will have some differences, including a more simplified Japanese version, and what may be a UK version with a sound CD USB stick, as well as a pin set. After the Nintendo Direct, the special edition actually went live for pre-order on Best Buy, but it appears that they either sold out or it's been taken down. We haven't heard anything from GameStop yet about this special edition, but be sure to check out the pinned comment in the description of this video, as I'll try to keep it updated with the latest news on links, so you can snag yourself a pre-order if you're interested. Thanks to Oscar on Twitter for finding this tidbit about how Koei Tecmo is also co-producing the game, which leads us to believe that it may in fact be utilizing the same engine as Fire Emblem Warriors. As much as I really liked Fire Emblem Warriors, it did have some issues with lag from time to time on the better graphical setting, so I hope that this doesn't hold Three Houses back if they're using the same engine. Though there should be less soldiers on screen than there are that appear in Warriors, but these Three Houses soldiers are a little bit more detailed, I think, so there's that. It has also been confirmed that the character designer for Fire Emblem Three Houses is indeed Kurahana Chinatsu, who designed the characters of Uda no Prince-sama. She has also worked on other series such as Aquarion Evol, Samurai Flamenco, and Tokyo Twilight Ghost Hunters. That's going to do it for this analysis video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, maybe learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, do me a solid and slash that thumbs up down below. And also get subscribed if you're interested in seeing more content in the lead up to Fire Emblem Three Houses. Are you excited for the game? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, a shout out to all of our amazing patrons who help to support the channel and make content like this possible. You can also join us on our Discord server if you want to have further discussion beyond this video. And be sure to follow us on Twitter for the latest Fire Emblem Three Houses news and updates. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.